Avengers Disassembled, the storyline where the Avengers break up? Hi, my name is Camarones, and I'm here to talk to you about an infamous storyline in Avengers history. The events of this story changed the Marvel landscape for years. The influence of this story led to several different storylines created and helmed by one writer, Brian Michael Bendis. Avengers Disassembled is a story written by Brian Michael Bendis and drawn by David Finch, and takes place during issues 500 through 503 of Avengers. Now, I'll preface this video by stating I'm by no means an expert on the Avengers. In fact, I'm not even a big fan of the Avengers comic book series. However, this story and the following series definitely drew me in. Avengers Disassembled starts with the heroes casually enjoying a nice lunch when suddenly a level red alarm goes off. A security breach is detected, and a hero named Jack of Hearts appears at the front of the Avengers mansion. Now, full transparency, I don't know who he is. It is what it is. Scott Lang, who's Ant-Man, tries to see what's going on. 1 second later, an explosion rocks the mansion. As the Avengers go to investigate, they realize that Scott Lang died. Then we cut to a United Nations meeting with Tony Stark discussing some political matters regarding superheroes. Suddenly, he starts sweating profusely and begins to berate the delegate from Latveria, after he steps away following a very uncomfortable and unpleasant conversation with Yellow Jacket, who was trying to calm him down. Scarlet Witch tries to find out what is going on with Tony. Tony claims he's drunk, but he hasn't actually drank. He claims his emotional and physical states are as if he is intoxicated, but he isn't. Following the explosion, Captain America tries to understand what is going on, and the Avengers don't know what they're in for. Out of nowhere, Vision comes crashing down in a Quinjet and spews up 5 Ultron robots claiming that he isn't in control. After some back and forth pages of fighting, She-Hulk starts going on a rampage and eventually rips Vision in half. She starts going berserk and gives into her instincts as a Hulk. She knocks out Captain Britain and starts to attack Cap. The first issue ends with a conversation in the dark between two characters presenting a foreboding sense of dread as there is more to come. Continuing, Tony Stark suits up as Iron Man to join the fight. He takes care of She-Hulk while the Wasp and Captain America rush to the hospital following their injuries at the mansion site. Readers are given a quick overview of the damage so far of Captain Britain in critical condition following the attack from She-Hulk that she took. She-Hulk right now is also in a tube pending investigation. Ant-Man's tag in the S.H.I.E.L.D. morgue is shown, and Vision's remains are being taken back to Stark Enterprises. Lastly, Yellow Jacket is seen with the Wasp in her hospital bed, wondering if she's gonna wake up and pondering on his mistakes on his time on the team. Next, Cap, Iron Man, Falcon, and Hawkeye are discussing the events that transpired, and Iron Man thinks it's a pre-planned attack. He thinks that a lot of the events happening are too coincidental, and he wants to get to the bottom of it, as Yellow Jacket comes in and confronts Tony about his behavior at the meeting. Eventually, Iron Man leaves since no one really believes him that he wasn't drunk, besides Cap. The heroes get a signal to return to the mansion when they encounter a large crowd of heroes gathered around the mansion. When questioned why everyone was there, Black Panther says that once upon a time they were all Avengers, so they answered the call to see what happened. Meanwhile, Nick Fury wants all the heroes to leave as they're probably contaminating the crime scene. Meanwhile, a news broadcast airs discussing the events of the United Nations meeting. The UN basically kicks the Avengers out and doesn't want to continue a partnership with them. Something else mentioned is the growing concerns of hero organizations with the "we will be revisiting this," which is foreshadowing for another certain Marvel event, which I'll cover soon enough as this series progresses that is important going forward. Then, literally out of nowhere, a Kree warship descends upon them and commences to attack New York. The heroes fight the incoming Kree soldiers, with Cap questioning a soldier for the reason of their attack. As Hawkeye continues to fight the soldiers, his quiver and arrows catch on fire, and before they blow up or the fire spreads, he charges at a warrior with a jetpack. Then he uses his jetpack and flies up with him, charging into the ship, and Hawkeye blows himself up when he crashes into the ship. The ship crashes, and then the battle comes to a climax as the heroes are confused as to what's going on as Doctor Strange arrives on the battlefield. Now, the last issue opens up with a flashback featuring Hawkeye, the Wasp, and Scarlet Witch. The Wasp mentions a pregnancy scare between her and Hawkeye, and unfortunately lets the information of Scarlet Witch's children slip out. She catches a slip-up asking her to clarify, and she lingers on the thought when dismissed. Going back to Doctor Strange, he states that a magical force is at play and that strong magic is being misused. Doctor Strange asks if they have or know of any magic users capable of creating such chaos as Cap thinks about one person. Notice that there's one Avenger that's seemingly out of the picture who was in the story in the beginning but kind of just left. The story then cuts to Scarlet Witch confronting her mentor, Agatha Harkness, about her two kids, wondering what happened to them. Doctor Strange and the heroes discuss Scarlet Witch's possible involvement and how her powers could have caused what happened. Now Ms. Marvel denies it, saying she couldn't and wouldn't do something like that. And then they bring up the issue of her children and what happened to them. Doctor Strange asks about them and finds that they technically never even existed, as they were actually conjured up by her. Strange gets annoyed as the heroes don't quite understand what they're dealing with and how they didn't even come to him with this information. He brings up all the past trauma she has endured and how she has never been in full control of her powers from the very beginning. She was born with her powers, just given them without any training. She loses herself more and more when she uses her powers. She eventually gets to the point where she misuses them, just like she did when she conjured up her children. The amount of pain and trauma she has gone through can affect her mental state tremendously. And with the events of today, it obviously had. Agatha Harkness took her children out of the equation, and Wanda finds out from her. It then cuts to her serving food to her children in a gray-toned room, with Agatha, Vision, and the Wonder Man accompanying them at the table. Captain America enters the scene trying to talk her out of this whole situation, but she doesn't listen and creates an illusion of Red Skull and some soldiers that shoot at him. The other heroes are outside the building she was staying in, waiting to confront her. Ms. Marvel, furious at her for what she has done, charges at her, but gets stopped by an illusion rogue from the X-Men. She creates more illusion heroes and villains to fight against everyone, and she eventually gets into an altercation with Doctor Strange. Eventually, he does beat her, and as she falls, Cap saves her. Then we cut to Nick Fury discovering Agatha Harkness's corpse that had been decaying for a very long time already. The book ends with Magneto arriving at the scene to take his daughter away as the heroes contemplate everything that has happened. Finally, the miniseries ends with a brief look back at when Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver initially interviewed to join the Avengers team. Now this story is something for sure. The Avengers Disassembled, both literally and figuratively. 6 Avengers are down, with Jack of Hearts, Scott Lang Ant-Man, and Vision deceased. She-Hulk, the Wasp, and Captain Britain right now are incapacitated. Scarlet Witch betrayed the Avengers and all her other fellow heroes. This story is important because it really does define Marvel for the next few years when it comes to the characters and events. Bendis does a good job of creating a little mystery about what happened at the mansion. Was it a premeditated attack? Was Tony drunk without realizing it? I do think the series could have benefited from at least one more issue to help flesh out Scarlet Witch's motives and character a bit more. Because once it's revealed that Scarlet Witch was the perpetrator of the attacks, the story kind of enters its climax a little too quickly. Speaking of her, Scarlet Witch caused the deaths of a few of her teammates. As the story unfolded, she was already aware of it too. She isn't a good person. Sure, she has had her own traumas, and certainly getting your children erased from your life can push you to that breaking point. However, that doesn't justify her actions. I think it's good that Doctor Strange reminds all the heroes of her past, like when she was first introduced as a villain when she was a part of the Brotherhood of Mutants. Her power pool is massive and uncertain. She is strong, but mentally unstable to the point she was willing to kill her friends as an act of restitution for how they lied to her. She had her kids back momentarily and lost them all over again, which will also be important for later events. However, is the fault entirely on her? I don't think so, as the Avengers did lie to her. Her trusted friends kept the secret from her and decided it was better to withhold the information. In fact, the information only came out in passing by accident, during a conversation with the Wasp. The Avengers claimed to be her friends, but they kept such a massive secret from her that she deserved to know. Now, would it have helped prevent what happened in the events of Avengers Disassembled? Maybe. Maybe not. Preventative measures could have been taken, as Doctor Strange was also mad because they didn't even come to him with any of the information of what happened to Scarlet Witch and her children. Bendis' dialogue feels both natural and unnatural at the same time. Now, as much of a fan I am of Bendis, he isn't exactly the most subtle writer. He loves to write repetitive word bubbles with heavy amounts of dialogue. All his books have it, and it's something you either get used to or you don't. Now, his dialogue for certain characters, alongside the pencils and inks by David Finch and Danny Mickey, respectively, create a nice piece of foreshadowing early in the run to let readers know something is up. When Scarlet Witch talks to Tony after he steps away from the stage at the UN meeting, her face is covered in darkness. She seems reassuring as she seems to care for what happened to him, yet we never see her face during this scene once. Little details like this are very cool and important when you pick up on them. I think David Finch's art is also very, very good, and works especially well with the vibrant colored characters from all the Avengers members. Colorist Frank Darmata does a great job making the colors pop on the various heroes and paints a nice setting for the landscape and the double page spreads. The fight scenes look amazing and are very highly detailed. I think this 4-issue series does a great job of disassembling the Avengers. We have a few deaths, we have some betrayals and confusion amongst the heroes, we have a lot of setup for future events. A problem I think that the Avengers comics had, which made me not really drawn to it too much, was that there were a lot of members in the team. The team was bloated. It had so many members and the roster got out of hand. Even Sandman, the Spider-Man villain, became a reserve member of the Avengers for Pete's sake. What follows and what the next video will cover will be New Avengers, also written by Brian Michael Bendis. I never really enjoyed the Avengers in the comics, but New Avengers for sure grabbed my attention. I'd appreciate it if you guys could leave a comment and subscribe. It'll help me out as I want to provide more comic book content as well as other related content to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great day.